welcome to Adaptation, where we talk about film adaptations and the original material they're based on, even if they don't exist yet. I'm Kendyl Bryant, and this week I'm going to be dreamcasting Life as We Knew It by Susan Beth Pfeffer. The book is written in journal entry form from the perspective of Miranda, who along with her family is living through kind of an apocalypse after an asteroid hits the moon and pushes it closer to Earth. This results in a chain of events from tsunamis and erupting volcanoes to very harsh weather, which results in massive death tolls as well as shortages in food, water, and electricity. Miranda, her mother, and her two brothers are basically just desperately trying to live as long as possible in the hope that they'll see better days. This was suggested in our Adaptations We Wish Existed video last year as a TV adaptation of the entire series, which is a set of 4 books. I've only read the first one, so I'm only going to be casting characters in it, but if you would like to expand it to the whole series, make sure you do so in the comments. I think the journal entry format is to blame for the lack of description in this book, because we basically don't know what anyone looks like. So I just cast for age appropriateness, of course, and the necessary emotional range. First up is the journal writer herself, Miranda, who has a pretty significant character arc throughout the book. She starts off as a slightly egocentric, typical teenage girl, and she turns into a completely selfless adult. She's only 17 when the book ends, but she's gone through a lot. You might remember Sophie Nelisse from when she played another girl that had to deal with more than her fair share of strife in The Book Thief. From that experience, I think we know that she can carry a movie, but if you aren't convinced yet, go and watch the trailer for The Great Gilly Hopkins, and I think you'll see what I mean. She plays a modern teenager in it, so it kind of gave me a little bit more perspective on this character. Miranda's mother, Laura, was one of the harder decisions to make. Not because she had a huge character arc, but she did have a lot of shades of emotion in her character. She is, of course, afraid for her family through most of the book. She can be cold and sometimes mean. She's tender and very proud of her children, but also hurt and vulnerable. Enter Ellen Pompeo. I have been watching this woman run the gambit of emotions on Grey's Anatomy for 12 years, and she absolutely has what it takes. Of course, if it came down to her having to choose between Grey's and this hypothetical project, I'd choose Grey's every time. But I'm choosing to invoke the dream part of Dreamcast and say that that means I can bend time to my will and she can do both. Matt, Miranda's college-age older brother, is essentially her rock. She relies on him for a lot of emotional support, and the entire family kind of sees him as the person that's going to help them all get through this. My number one requirement for this was a comforting presence, so I cast Colin Ford. You may recognize him as young Sam from Supernatural or Joe on Under the Dome, which I haven't seen, to be honest. We don't hear from Matt except through the lens of Miranda's journals, so this could be my headcanon, but I think he steps up because he sees it as his responsibility and not necessarily because he's comfortable in that role, which is why I like this casting as sort of a reluctant hero. The youngest sibling, Johnny, is middle school aged, I think. I hope, because I cast a 14-year-old for the role. He loves baseball, and he gets sheltered a little bit from the worst of things in the beginning, but he really grows up when he starts to understand that his family is going without so that he can eat more normally. Ty Simpkins of Jurassic World and Iron Man 3 fame is my pick for this. He's kind of right on the edge of still a little baby-faced, but turning into a teen, which I think is good for the role of Johnny. And we've seen him do that big brother, little brother dynamic, which I'd really like to see more of if this book were turned into an entire season of television. And that was all I was going to cast, but then I decided to throw 2 more in just for funsies. They're pretty small roles, but what the heck. Megan is Miranda's former-ish best friend, and she's gotten really into church when the book starts, in a sort of frenzied way. In fact, when everything happens, Miranda goes to visit her and she exudes happiness, but she has stopped eating even though her family still has food because she believes that God will sustain her. And I was thinking about Bailee Madison and the kind of wide-eyed hope that she portrays in Once Upon a Time when she's young Snow, and how it might be kind of interesting to see her turn that corner from naive to just slightly unhinged. We also kind of get the idea that she has a little bit of a crush on her pastor, who we find out later is a completely despicable human. And personally, when I think of good-looking yet despicable preachers, I can't help but think of this guy. So I figured, why not throw Nathan Fillion in here too? Reverend Marshall is only in one short scene, but I couldn't resist. And on that brilliant bit of casting, I'm going to throw this back to you guys. Do you like my choices? Do you have better ideas of your own? Make sure you put them down in the comments. And don't you dare forget to hit that subscribe button, follow all our social media, and most importantly, check out our podcast on iTunes. Until next time, remember, it's the same moon Shakespeare and Marie Antoinette and George Washington and Cleopatra looked at. It waxed and waned in their sky too.